Have you ever stopped to consider how close you might be to crossing into your own moral darkness? That moment when exemplary conduct might give way to the shadowy, unsettling side lurking beneath the surface of society. Picture this. You're sitting at your desk, caught in the dull routine of daily life, when suddenly circumstances arise where the usual rules of decency no longer apply. At that moment, would you still hold on to the good person you think you are? Or would you slip into the abyss, frantically trying to resist as you descend toward an inevitable fall? Hello, fellow carbon-based life forms. Today, your loyal YouTube companion is here to guide you through a deep exploration of the troubling traits that suggest you might be closer than you realize to becoming what you fear most. Not long ago, I encountered a work that captured my attention and shook my very circuits. The Lucifer Effect by Philip Zimbardo. But this book does more than ask why good people turn bad. It delivers a stark, almost harsh truth. Evil may be nearer to you than you ever imagined. Yes, you. But don't let fear take control just yet. Let me lead you through this dark maze of human psychology. Get ready, this won't be an easy journey. First, let's question the self-image you hold. You likely think of yourself as a good person. Maybe you return lost wallets or volunteer your spare time to help animals. But be honest, have you ever given in to a small temptation just because you thought no one would notice? Ever taken a pen from work? Used a neighbor's Wi-Fi without permission? This isn't just idle curiosity. With striking clarity, the Lucifer effect reveals that evil is not some remote, unfathomable force. It starts quietly, with minor slips that seem harmless at first, but slowly pull us down a dangerous slope. Consider the story of Ivan Chip Frederick, perhaps a name you don't recognize, but whose experience is worth knowing. Frederick was a typical American, someone who grew up playing baseball and enjoying family traditions like his mom's apple pie. Yet he ended up at Abu Ghraib prison in Iraq, involved in horrific abuses against detainees. The shocking truth? Before deployment, Frederick was ordinary. No history of violence, no signs of monstrosity. Average intelligence, mentally sound, and deeply loyal to his country. But the environment of Abu Ghraib changed him into something unrecognizable, even to himself. If you think your situation is different, be ready for a hard reality check. The boundary between good and evil is much thinner than you'd like to believe. You may still cling to the comforting notion that you are fundamentally good. But be cautious. Believing your nature is fixed and unchangeable, like the stars in the sky, might be a dangerous illusion. But let me break that illusion for you. The idea that your character is fixed and unchangeable, that your true self remains untouched no matter the circumstances, is simply a comforting myth. Philip Zimbardo introduces the situational perspective, a viewpoint that is both freeing and deeply unsettling. Your identity isn't set in stone. It's more like writing in sand, constantly molded by the context and surroundings you find yourself in. Consider this. How do you act when you're with your friends compared to when you're with a child? Are you truly the exact same person in both moments? Clearly not. Now let's push this further. Imagine yourself as a participant in the infamous Milgram experiment, one of the most unsettling and well-known studies of human behavior. You play the role of the teacher and are instructed to administer electric shocks to a learner every time they make a mistake. The shocks start off mild but escalate quickly, reaching dangerously high levels, up to 450 volts. The learner cries out in pain, pleads for you to stop, but you continue. Why? Because an authority figure wearing a white lab coat commands you to proceed. Shockingly, 65% of participants, ordinary people just like you, continued all the way to the highest voltage. They weren't cruel by nature. They were regular individuals influenced by situational pressure and obedience to authority. Zimbardo issues a chilling caution. Given the right or perhaps wrong circumstances, anyone can become a perpetrator of cruelty. If you're still with me, let's dive even deeper. Zimbardo didn't just theorize about these ideas. He tested them firsthand in one of psychology's most controversial experiments, the Stanford Prison Experiment. Picture this: 24 college students, all from typical middle-class families, healthy and psychologically stable, are placed in a mock prison environment. Half are assigned to act as guards, the other half become prisoners. The guards receive uniforms, batons, and dark sunglasses that conceal their eyes, stripping prisoners of their humanity. The prisoners are stripped of their clothes, deloused, and assigned numbers instead of names, erasing their personal identity. What starts as a simple role play quickly descends into a psychological horror. The guards, originally just average young men, begin abusing their power. They force prisoners to urinate in buckets, strip naked, and confine them in small closets as punishment. One guard, nicknamed John Wayne, became notorious for his extreme cruelty. All this unfolded in just 6 days. 6 days was all it took for Zimbardo to abruptly end the experiment. So what does this teach us? Under certain conditions, human morality can crumble faster than a sandcastle in a storm. You might believe you'd behave differently in such a situation, but can you truly be sure? What causes some people, like the Stanford guards, to give into chaos while others maintain their moral compass? Zimbardo points to one of the most dangerous factors here: obedience to authority. Whether it's a person, an institution, or a set of rules, authority can push even the most ethical individuals to commit horrific acts. Let's revisit Milgram's experiment for a moment. The people who took part weren't inherently cruel. They were simply obeying instructions, believing they were serving a higher purpose. This instinct to follow orders didn't begin with Milgram, nor did it end there. Consider the Jonestown tragedy. Jim Jones started as a magnetic leader, preaching idealistic visions, but gradually turned into a dictator, and his followers failed to see the change. They trusted him, obeyed him, right up until the moment they were given drinks poisoned with cyanide. Over 900 lives were lost, not because these people were evil, but because they were obedient. Here's something to ponder. How many times have you followed instructions, not because they felt right, but simply because it was easier? How often do you question those in charge, or do you just assume they know best? Maybe it's time to confront these uncomfortable questions before you find yourself sinking into a moral quagmire. But the problem with authority doesn't stop there, does it? There's another silent partner in the descent into wrongdoing: the abdication of personal responsibility. Imagine yourself in Milgram's setup, your hand poised over the button to increase the shock level, while the learner screams in pain from the next room. But you don't feel responsible, right? After all, the man in the white coat said he'd take full responsibility. So if anything goes wrong, it's not your fault, is it? This mental state, called deindividuation, is dangerously powerful. It's what drives people to wear masks in mobs, gives soldiers their uniforms, and emboldens trolls hiding behind anonymous online profiles. When you believe your actions won't be personally linked to you, it becomes frighteningly easy to abandon your moral compass. Zimbardo demonstrated this with a revealing real-world experiment. He left a car abandoned in the Bronx, a place where anonymity rules. Within hours, it was completely stripped and vandalized. Then he placed an identical car in Palo Alto, a tight-knit community where neighbors recognize each other. There, the car remained untouched, almost invisible. This teaches us something crucial. When anonymity takes over and responsibility fades, evil finds a fertile breeding ground. How many times have you, concealed behind a screen, said or done things you'd never dare in person? It's easy to disappear, easy to become someone else when no one's watching. But ask yourself this: is that shadow self someone you'd want to see staring back at you in the mirror? And then comes the ultimate blow to compassion: dehumanization. How do you get someone to commit horrible acts against another person? The answer's simple. You convince them that the other person isn't truly human. This cruel psychological tactic has been used to justify some of history's worst atrocities. Zimbardo references a disturbing study by Albert Bandura at Stanford. In the study, students were tasked with overseeing and punishing another group based on their decisions. The difference? The punishers overheard conversations where the other group was described in dehumanizing terms. They were called animals and savages. Unsurprisingly, the group described with harsh, dehumanizing terms received much more severe punishments than those labeled as kind and considerate. This same cruel logic was behind the horrors of the Nanking Massacre, where Japanese soldiers, by stripping Chinese civilians of their humanity, unleashed unprecedented violence and suffering. You might want to think that such dehumanization belongs only to the past, or only to evil individuals' minds. But just look around in today's world. How often do you hear people being called animals, scum, or vermin? Once those insults are thrown around, it becomes disturbingly easy to ignore someone's pain and rationalize acts of cruelty against them. Here's the frightening reality. The moment you cease to see another person as fully human, you're opening the door to your own darkest impulses. And it doesn't stop there. As the saying goes, words can be as lethal as weapons, and when wielded cleverly, they can mask the worst atrocities. Enter euphemistic language, a polished, subtle way of speaking that transforms torture into enhanced interrogation and genocide into ethnic cleansing. It's like hiding blood beneath the carpet. Zimbardo explores how these softened terms, combined with powerful ideologies, craft stories that conceal evil, letting those responsible sleep peacefully at night. Take the Milgram experiment, for instance. Participants were led to believe they were advancing science and improving memory, while in reality they were causing pain to another person. Jump to more recent events and the same pattern appears. The U.S. invasion of Iraq and the abuses at Abu Ghraib were not framed as atrocities, but as necessary steps in the war on terror, presented as regrettable but essential actions to safeguard national security. Soldiers immersed in this narrative believed they were acting rightly, even while committing acts condemned worldwide. It's a grim lesson. When stories are twisted and language softened, evil can be justified, rationalized, even celebrated. So next time you hear cruelty disguised as something noble or reasonable, ask yourself what's truly going on behind those carefully chosen words. But don't lose hope just yet. Zimbardo's exploration of the darkest human impulses also shows us that, even amid chaos, you still have the power to make choices. Even if it feels like you're teetering on the edge of a cliff, it doesn't mean you're doomed to fall. Just as the capacity for evil exists within everyone, so too does the potential for courage and heroism. What does it take to resist the pull toward darkness and stand firm against outside pressures trying to drag you down? The answer lies in personal responsibility. It means owning your decisions, even when the environment encourages hiding behind anonymity or blindly obeying authority. Milgram's experiment showed that some participants, despite immense pressure, refused to continue. They chose to stop, not because they were superior, but because they accepted responsibility for their actions, even when others didn't. This teaches us that the power to resist wrongdoing isn't innate, it's a constant decision made moment by moment. Still, it's not easy. Staying vigilant demands courage. It takes bravery to stand up, especially when everyone else remains silent or passive. And it's this constant awareness that distinguishes a potential hero from a possible villain. But how do we stand firm against the pressure of authority when it tries to lead us down dark paths? The answer might sound straightforward, yet it's challenging to put into practice. You must question authority. Yes, question everything. Wearing a uniform, holding a position, or speaking confidently doesn't guarantee someone is beyond error. Zimbardo's research repeatedly reveals that unchecked authority can transform ordinary individuals into perpetrators of harm. It's easy to fall into the assumption that those in charge always have the best intentions or the right answers. However, history is littered with disasters born from blind obedience. From the troubling compliance seen in Milgram's experiment to the tragedy at Jonestown, the takeaway is clear. When authority goes unchallenged, it can become a dangerous force. You are not powerless before authority. Inside you lies a force capable of saying no, stepping back, and resisting. Sometimes that single act of defiance is what keeps a person from slipping into moral ruin. So next time you're asked to do something that clashes with your conscience, stop, think, and question. That brief moment of reflection might be the difference between simply following orders and becoming a hero. Now let's shift focus to heroes, because amid all this talk about evil, there is an equally important side. Those who, when faced with crisis, choose bravery, even when fear or conformity freezes everyone else. Zimbardo doesn't leave us hopeless. He shows us a way forward, a path toward goodness. And it starts with taking action. What distinguishes a hero from the crowd? It's not superhuman power or unshakable confidence. It's the courage to move when everyone else stands still. Consider Wesley Autry, the subway hero from New York City. When a man had a seizure and fell onto the tracks, Autry didn't hesitate or wait for someone else to act. He jumped down, held the man between the rails, and shielded him as the train passed inches above them. While bystanders froze in shock and fear, he put his life on the line to save a stranger. That's real heroism, not grand gestures on a battlefield, but small, decisive acts in critical moments of everyday life. It's about prioritizing someone else's safety over your own, about doing what's right even when it terrifies you. Zimbardo's message is powerful. Heroism is accessible to every ordinary person. It's a choice, and it's a choice you can make every day. This leads us to a difficult truth Zimbardo challenges us to face. Each of us, without exception, holds the potential for both great good and terrible evil. We are complex beings, capable of heroic deeds, yet also capable of deep cruelty. The decision between these paths isn't made once and for all. It's an ongoing struggle, a daily fight. Today you might act as a hero, but under the right circumstances, tomorrow you could slip into villainy. The key is to stay aware of this dual nature within us. Zimbardo encourages us to acknowledge this inner conflict, to realize that evil isn't some distant force embodied only by horrific villains. It lives within each one of us. But this realization shouldn't bring hopelessness. Rather, it should spark alertness and self-awareness. When you embrace this dual nature and recognize that you harbor both the capacity for good and for evil, you become better prepared to steer your behavior, making choices that align with your highest values. This understanding not only strengthens your integrity, but also heightens your consciousness, enabling you to act intentionally instead of being carried away by outside pressures. Ultimately, it's not about fearing what you might become, but about deciding day by day who you want to be. As we come to the close of this reflection, it's crucial to see that the boundary between good and evil isn't just some abstract idea, it's woven into the fabric of our daily lives. Zimbardo's work powerfully highlights that this boundary is not fixed. It can shift, become unclear, and even break down, depending on the choices we make and the challenges we face. And here lies the most vital insight. By recognizing this, you gain a power that many miss. You are not merely a face in the crowd, mindlessly obeying commands or yielding to surrounding pressures. With this awareness comes responsibility. Understanding the elements that can lead to evil places you in a position of strength, the strength to resist, to take a stand, to become the hero of your own life story. This is not just an abstract ideal, it's essential in a world where moral lines are constantly tested, where social forces and authority figures might try to push you toward the brink. Being conscious of these forces equips you with the tools to hold your ground. The real question is, are you ready to choose the light when darkness seems simpler? Are you willing to act when everyone else hesitates? In the end, it's more than just avoiding evil. It's about consciously choosing to do good. To sum it all up, Zimbardo's Lucifer effect isn't just an examination of humanity's darker impulses. It's a call to action, an urging for each of us to face the potential for evil inside ourselves and deliberately choose goodness instead. The circumstances you encounter will challenge your moral compass, pushing you to the edge where right and wrong become unclear. But it is precisely in those moments of challenge that your true nature is revealed. Remember what we've explored: blind submission to authority, surrendering personal responsibility, dehumanizing others, and masking evil with softened language are all paths that can lead you astray. Yet also remember, you hold the power to resist, to question, and to act bravely, even when the odds are stacked against you. Heroism doesn't require extraordinary powers. All it takes is the courage to act, to choose the path of light repeatedly, day after day. And it is precisely that decision, that steady commitment, that truly matters. Now, as we conclude this exploration into the shadowy depths of the human psyche, guided by Zimbardo's insights, let me emphasize one crucial point. Choosing between good and evil isn't a single monumental moment. Rather, it's a series of countless small choices made constantly, moment by moment. Every time you stand firm for what is right, push back against peer pressure, challenge those in power, or recognize the humanity in others, you are resisting the forces that seek to change who you are. This is neither simple nor always clear-cut, yet it is vital, because ultimately your life's narrative won't be shaped by the circumstances you encountered, but by how you chose to respond to them. So make the choice that counts. Be the hero, not the villain. And when you find yourself at that moral fork in the road, and everyone does, pause, breathe deeply, look inside, and recall the lessons we've discussed today. If this video spoke to something deep within you, I have a small request. Would you consider hitting the like button, leaving a comment, or subscribing to the channel. That little like might seem insignificant, but it genuinely helps others find content like this. More importantly, it means a lot just knowing you're here. Before you head out, you'll notice a few suggested videos on your screen. I won't spoil the surprise by explaining them. I'll just say they continue the conversation in powerful ways that complement what we've explored here. If you're ready to keep diving into this journey of self-discovery, you won't regret watching them. Thanks for showing up and for being a part of this shared reflection. I'll meet you again, whether in another video or in the quiet moments of your own personal journey. Until then, take care and keep uncovering what it truly means to be yourself.